The crypto market is in extreme fear, while at the same time the stock market is in greed mode. What does all this mean for Supra, Kaspa, XRP, and Internet Computer? And what is actually the latest news? Why is Bitcoin falling too? All that in this video. Hi, I'm Marius from 10x Analytics, and my channel is all about data and not about hype. Why the data is extremely exciting again today, we'll clarify all of that. First, we'll go through the entire market again, so that you understand what is currently happening. On my channel, I always explain data, but in a way that's easy for everyone to understand. So let's go through everything again. Bitcoin dominance is still at 60, which naturally means that significantly more assets, significantly more capital is in Bitcoin than in altcoins. Here we also see the Altcoin Season, or rather the Altcoin Season Index. That means whether we are ultimately outperforming more altcoins, meaning outperforming Bitcoin, or if Bitcoin is stronger. And currently Bitcoin is stronger. We are in a Bitcoin season. Crypto market cap is here for comparison. This is the total crypto market cap, and this is the one for stocks. This means that crypto as an asset class is still very small. The potential is, of course, still massive to the upside. And as for the fear and greed index, it basically says whether the entire market is more afraid or more in greed mode. So fear means that most people will probably not buy, but rather sell. And greed, of course, means that many are getting into FOMO again. Here's the discrepancy between crypto and stocks. In stocks, we are still in the greed range at 61, and in crypto, in the extreme fear range. Why that's the case right now, we'll get to that in a moment. Then we have the various assets here. Let's take another look. These are always from the last 7 days. Oil is in the green, which means that if, for example, tensions in the Iran conflict rise again, then the oil price will naturally rise as well. Gas has been at about the same level over the last 7 days. Uranium fell slightly. Gold and silver fell. Silver actually a bit more significantly. Then, how about the macro data? The Nasdaq is slightly up. The S&P 500 is also slightly up. The Dow Jones is slightly up. And the DAX, as you see again and again, the DAX is usually weaker than US stocks, and the euro is slightly up against the US dollar. Then the top 5 cryptos and top 5 stocks. Nvidia is down almost 5%, but it also rose massively. Almost understandable. Google is about the same. Apple actually rose slightly, as did Microsoft and Amazon. In the crypto market, on the other hand, it looks the same again. Everything has basically been in the red over the last 7 days. And actually Solana is leading the way here in the top 5. Then the Bitcoin ETF inflows. Again, ETF. Why is an ETF important for Bitcoin or for assets in general? Well, because companies usually don't invest directly in cryptos, but via an ETF because it's better regulatorily, and they're ultimately allowed to invest at all, simply put. And here the inflows for the week are positive again. Then the Fed, that's the Federal Reserve, so to speak, the Central Bank of America. Meaning, simply put, if the effective rate is low or lower, then banks can, of course, also take lower interest rates for loans, for when they borrow money. And that is effectively positive, especially for risk assets. But that means if the rate goes up, then it's rather a disadvantage for the crypto sector. But the next meeting isn't until the 17th of June, so there's still a bit of time, and it still looks as if no change is taking place. At least that's what the market predicts. Then we have a few exciting winners here again in the last, let's say, 7 days in the stock market, penny stocks, especially small caps. I regularly analyze altcoins in the small cap sector, but also, of course, stocks in the small cap sector in my 10x Elite. So for myself, I'm also looking for exciting altcoins, but also exciting, let's say, penny stocks that I want to invest in that have real potential. And I always post those on Mondays in the setup of the week in my 10x Elite. You can take a look at all that. The link is in the video description. Yes, then to the low cap altcoin sector. It's also exciting, by the way, that Polkadot has now also entered the quote-unquote low cap sector. Exactly. But we also have an exciting Stellar again. It shot up quite a bit again. Also extremely exciting. All familiar names from the last bull run, actually. That's it so far for the overall overview. Now let's go through everything individually on the chart again, including XRP, Kaspa, and Supra, of course. Everything in detail. Where do we stand at the moment? What's the next step? What would I personally do now? And before we continue, a little info. If you're currently looking for a reputable crypto exchange, especially because of the MyCA regulation, then I personally recommend my partner, Swissborg. If you sign up, you'll also get up to 50 euros in Bitcoin. It's a super simple app. You can really buy and sell cryptos there. It's extremely uncomplicated, all via the app, so I can only recommend it. I use it daily too. So all the info is here, or just scan the QR code to go to my website. And if you use my link, as I said, it's an affiliate link. I get a bonus, of course, but it doesn't cost you anything extra. But then you get up to 50 euros in Bitcoin. Good. So then we're in the chart. The first thing I'd like to show you, by the way, is the Swiss franc against the US dollar here. And if you take just a little look at that, for example, let's say starting right here from the year 2017, you can really see what I mean. For example, there, if you look at it, as I said, this is the Swiss franc against the US dollar. It has gained 35%, the Swiss franc. So you have to consider as a currency, meaning if you had just invested in Swiss francs here, you would now be up by almost 35%. Just think about that. But that's just an aside. Now, as always, we'll go through the various assets. Bitcoin, let's start with Bitcoin as usual. This is how it looks right now. Exactly. So interestingly, we recently had a small red dot. Then there was a sell-off. That was around here. Sold off by almost 5.7%. Currently, we're in the lower range, so it's quite exciting right now. We're slowly entering the oversold zone. For those who follow my channel often, down here is the zone where I wait for the big green dot, because that's a point where, possibly, we've now reached a slow bottoming out. Therefore, that's also what I would be waiting for right now, for the big green dot to appear. And if you don't want to wait for my videos, or, of course, want to apply this to other assets as well, then take a look at the 10x indicator. You can get it starting at 29 euros plus taxes on top of that, of course. But it's definitely a really great offer. You can use it for all assets, and you always have a good overview of the market. There's also a tutorial included and everything on how to actually use it. Yes, moving on. Let's look at all the altcoins as usual. It looks similar here too. We had a small red dot, which suggests a bearish trend reversal. So I'd be cautious there for now as well. But here too, we're slowly entering the oversold zones, where it's starting to get interesting and exciting again, in my view. Then, as already mentioned, let's first get to Kaspa. How does it look with Kaspa? We had formed a big red dot here, and it's actually still intact. When that was formed, boom, 21%. Now, of course, the question for you is probably, okay, I find Kaspa super exciting, but when should I actually consider getting in? When would be a good time? And of course, everyone has that problem. It's always hard to see, which is why I have the 10x indicator, which helps me filter out the noise a bit. So what I'm personally waiting for here is also down here. We're slowly entering the oversold zone. So extremely exciting. As soon as we form a big green dot down here, a possible bottom is forming. It's no guarantee, but it's a data-based opportunity that you definitely shouldn't ignore. So right now, since the last time we looked, not much has really changed here. We've continued to drop further, so we still have some downside potential. And as I said, personally, I'd wait until we finally form a green dot down here. And then I would do a further analysis. Then how does it look with internet computer? Interestingly, the situation looks quite different there. We had another small green dot here. After that, we went up by almost 25%. But right now, no red dot yet, a smaller one, no green dot yet. Currently, we're even in the middle range, so I'd be very, very careful with internet computer right now. Here too, I'd wait until we go back down again. And a large green dot potentially forms down here. That could be down here, but it could also be significantly lower. In any case, as I said, that's an indication that we might have reached a bottom now. So there too, I would wait for the time being. And down here would ultimately be a new zone. If you don't want to miss that, I regularly make news videos, for example, but I also analyze and make videos about Kaspa when there's news, technical stuff, but also about internet computer. If you don't want to miss out, then subscribe to my channel now. I'll have more exciting news for you in the future. Then you'll always be up to date on all assets, Kaspa, Supra, internet computer. Then let's move right along. The keyword, how does it look with Supra? With Supra 2, we had formed a large red dot. Again, a zone like this here, oh, watch out, many people have bought FOMO is slowly setting in again. There could be a local top, and then it happened. Since then, we've gone down by 40%, so it's extreme. And currently, a similar situation to Kaspa. We haven't quite reached the oversold area here yet. Here too, my personal tactic, I'd wait until we get down here and until a large green dot eventually forms here. And then we'll slowly enter an exciting zone. But we are here, if you think about it, we're slowly nearing the all-time low. That was roughly here. That means we could break down further now. If that happens, in my view, there will be another massive move downwards. Then we come to XRP, also very exciting. We recently formed a small red dot here on XRP. After that, we fell by almost 7%. By the way, it was bought up extremely again here. But here too, the move is not completely over in my view. The chance is there that we'll go down even further. And here again, I would personally wait until we get into an oversold zone down here and a large green dot forms. Then let's take a look at the topic of stocks now. I'm also moving more and more towards the topic of stocks. Above all, what's exciting, as we've seen in this run, is the topic of AI stocks. Stocks, companies that are relevant for the future. If you don't want to miss out, by the way, I'll be showing stocks here in the future, in the AI sector, for example, that I find through my analyses, which might have a major run and are an important narrative, then definitely subscribe to the channel. As always, let's look at the S&P 500. It's exciting here too, as I said, stocks are hitting one all-time high after another, while the crypto market can't keep up. I've already explained why that is, by the way. It's simply because that's where the money is flowing right now, and crypto is being left behind at the moment. Then, as I said, the S&P 500, we had a big green dot right here on the chart, by the way, which is something worth noting. And after that, we actually rose by almost 20%, which is quite significant. Now, the small green dot is still intact here, remaining in place. But I think at a certain point, if you really think about it and consider the situation carefully, we're up here in what you might call the risk area, meaning we're currently in the overbought zone. So it's important to keep that in mind as we move forward. There could be a major correction in the future. Let's take a look at Nvidia. Nvidia had a big red dot here and then we were sold off. That was almost 10%. Currently here too, we're in the middle range. In my view, I wouldn't get into Nvidia at the moment. From my perspective, I'd wait here too until we get down here and a big green dot forms. Only then will it be interesting for me at all. Then MicroStrategy. Yes, that correlates quite strongly with Bitcoin, of course. Here we had a small red dot. Then we're sold off massively. We're currently at minus 25%. Here too, we're slowly entering the oversold zone, but I'd rather wait for now. Then how about Tesla? Interestingly, Tesla performed quite differently than the others here. Tesla formed a small green dot here. That was around here. After that, we went up by 7%. No small red dot has formed yet, but I'd still be careful. Again, we see we're slowly in the overbought zone, meaning the risk of correction is high. I would also wait here for now. It wouldn't be an investment situation for me right now. I'll link the analysis on Tesla and why I see it as overvalued up here. Then Palantir, also a very exciting company, I'd say. Very exciting chart-wise too. We've formed a small green dot. We're in the middle range here, so the upside potential is still there. Therefore, but here too, for me, an investment case is only ever down here where I even consider investing. So that's everything for the chart analysis so far. What I also find exciting is that I'm currently developing my own research and analysis bot. It is based on Claude. I find Claude to be extremely good, I'd say. That is a really great thing. Especially regarding data. And it's in development. How does that help me personally then? And why will I also make it available to the 10x elite then in the future? Quite simply, you can basically choose an asset such as crypto or a stock. Then a market cap range, meaning if you say, okay, I want to search for an altcoin or a stock, a penny stock from the low cap area, then you can select that. And then a thematic narrative. Either it searches everything and does it automatically, or you choose a narrative. For example, if you say you want to find an exciting altcoin or an exciting company, meaning a stock from the AI sector, then you simply click on Start Research. And it searches for data. I've implemented an algorithm there, specifically built on my 10x formula. I have been developing the 10x Intelligence Pro for months now, really, because I want it to be perfect and truly helpful as well. And then in the end, after it has conducted research, it also analyzes the stock, by the way, as well, the cryptocurrency, with my 20 key figures, and then outputs a result, namely 3 hits. And those are ultimately altcoins or stocks that are currently in an important narrative, where technical innovations might come in the future that are relevant. And all of that is then basically summarized together. This naturally saves me a huge amount of research work that I usually do because everything is integrated into one tool. And yeah, I will post a bit more about that in the future, but it is an all-in-one tool that is really meant to support research. More on that in the future. It's still in development right now, but as soon as it's live, it'll be available in the 10x Elite. So before you go, I'll link an analysis here that I just did recently about why NEAR rose by almost 50%, what the reasons were for that right here. I can only recommend it. NEAR is an exciting project. Definitely check it out. So see you in a bit.